everyone, and welcome to Read This Now, the weekly webcast where Brad Gustafson and I share two books that we love and we think you should read when, Brad?
Right now. I had to locate my webcam for a second. Right now.
Right now.
That was my moment and I ruined it, but here we
No,
are.
it's perfect. You convinced me. I'm absolutely convinced that these books need to be read right now.
Okay, good. Mission accomplished.
Woo-hoo. Well, with that said, why don't you tell me what you've been reading this week?
Okay, well, a little bit of randomness. That's my specialty, Jen. You're the one who grounds this whole production.
It's a
So
tough
I saw
job. It's
on
a tough
Twitter
job, but I try.
someone tweeted from the Minnesota Item Conference, which is where you and I first met in person
Yep.
many, many years ago. But they were talking about this conversation, this show today. So I thought that was cool. They showed
Woo!
the new
500
website.
viewers.
There's a link to the new website that was on the screen. I could tell. So that's cool, huh?
Yay, that's
All right.
exciting. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I'll whatever tag you or whatever. I'll do something with that tweet later when I have time. But just thought I would let you know. And then I was also gonna, in the spirit of randomness, just share. I have a book to share, and it's more about the story. Like this is one of those rare moments where it's the book is amazing, the author is amazing, and I want to talk a little bit about book talking. That's kind of the
Yes.
point of that. So the book that actually, I'm going to tell the story first. So my son doesn't recommend books to me a lot. He likes to talk video games and other stuff. So when he
Sure.
does recommend a book, like it's a pretty big deal.
You got to take notice of that.
Yeah, and I do, and I'm the one who maybe recommends books to him more than not. So anyway, he recommended this one to me, and then here's the thing that I've been reflecting on. He circled back multiple times on it. So a week later, like, Dad, have you read this yet? And
Wow.
then maybe another week later, to the point where I don't think I was gonna read it, but because he kept following up and he's telling me how much he loves this book,
Yes.
I'm like, I'm gonna buy the book. I'm gonna read the book. So I did, and it made me think about something that I don't do really well with book talking. Is I'll share with lots of people different books, but I don't usually follow up. And I was thinking a little bit. It just reminds me of if you've ever heard, or sometimes I'll just ask someone to pray for me, or they might say that to me. Sometimes I don't even follow up and say, how did it go? How did it turn out? Or I don't update people like, thanks for praying for me. Here's kind of where that situation landed and stuff like that. But it's a little bit of the same thing, or it reminded me of the same thing, that follow up can take the reading and the book talk and the relationship so much deeper, just like it did with my son. So I want to start doing that a teeny tiny bit more, and I'll use the word strategically. So when I book talk to certain people, if I really truly feel like that book, their heart needs that book, or however I love what you say. There's a place on their bookshelf heart for the book, something like
Yes,
that.
I have a bookshelf in my heart for that person.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So when that scenario is true, I think I want to be more strategic, just about circling back and letting them know I'm thinking about them
Sure.
and things like that. So instead of just being like a sprinkler and sprinkling out book talk. So that was the build up. The book where it all happened, where my middle school son was relentless and telling me it's an Alan Gratz book, which I love and have no problem talking about. He's my
Yes.
second most name dropped author that I talk about, I think. And this is not his newest one. He actually has several newer ones, and I think one that's either coming out now or just came out. But this
He's
is
like a
Code of Honor.
machine. Like he
He
just keeps publishing. It's so great.
And they're good too, really
Yes.
good. Not just for middle schoolers, but for principals and adults too. So a little bit about Alan Gratz, who you and I both, I think we were at the same dinner and got to have dinner with him,
Got
right?
to have dinner. This is a major name dropping show.
This
Yes,
is like
we
next
did
level name
we
dropping
did
we're
have
doing. This
dinner
is
with
like
Alan Gratz.
dinner date name dropping. And he was lovely to eat with. I'm really milking this one, right? But one of Alan Gratz, what I have deemed part of his trademark is just how riveting he ends each chapter, like the cliffhangers where you can't ever go to bed because of how he ends the chapters. You just got to keep reading.
Yes.
This one was no different. Code of Honor. So in a nutshell, two brothers who love each other dearly. They're just so close. And one of them plays football, Cameron. he really, I hope I'm getting the names right. He looks up to his older brother Darius. Just Darius is like a hero to him and just super close. Well, anyway, Darius was accused, not just accused, there was video proof that Darius was a terrorist. And that you
Mm,
can maybe imagine how the whole town felt and turned on Cameron and just all the things that happen when there's
yeah.
video proof that your brother and hero and friend was a terrorist. And I use the term proof loosely because there's a very complicated situation that I definitely won't get into. I don't want to ruin any of the cliffhangers, but it's really worth leaning into this one. I appreciated how it felt like a really authentic story that you could see happening on multiple levels. And it also felt like as I'm reading, my brain was doing tricks on me, like this can't be, and I'm trying to figure it out, but I couldn't see through the
Yeah.
plot. It was sophisticated enough where my brain is trying to crack it, and I
Yeah. I
couldn't
love
crack
books
it. I
like
won't
that.
even tell you where it landed, but now I know why my son would not leave me alone, and maybe we shouldn't leave our 3.5 viewers alone on this one either. You're gonna want to check this one out if you
Oh,
haven't yet.
I love that. I love books that, I know when you're talking about books that maybe have a little bit of a mystery element or a problem to solve, some kind of element like that. I know I'm not the target reader for those books, that while I might figure it out or unravel it sooner than a middle school reader would, that's okay because I'm not the target audience. I've read a bajillion more books than a middle school reader has, right? But I
Mhm.
still get so thrilled when I am fooled by the book, when it takes me a while to unravel it. It's exciting because then I get to feel like I sort of get the same kind of experience that the target audience does. So that's wonderful. And Alan Gratz is like a master at the cliffhangers and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, thanks. I'm laughing because maybe I must be an egocentric reader because I thought all books were written for me and it was about my ability
well,
to
maybe they
unravel the plot.
are.
But you're right. I am probably not Alan's target audience.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we are practically his best friends, so we
Yeah,
might be, right? We might be.
fair
Oh, I
assessment.
love that. I love that so much. And I love the story about your son and
Yeah.
the idea of following up on book talks. I think that is such a great practice. And in regards to lots of different things, because a follow-up is a way to show you care, like you really care.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that's
Yeah.
a lovely thing. Lovely, lovely
And I
thing.
what I appreciate about you, Jen, is you always indulge my newbiness on this journey because you're probably like, duh, Brad. That's what I do. That's what we do. But it had just never really occurred to me. So thanks for letting me just transparently kind of share.
I think next year this show will be 5 years old. It's hard to
Yeah.
believe that, right? So you don't get to be called a newbie anymore. Like I think we're past the newbie stage.
Okay. I tried.
All right. Well, since we're name dropping on this show, I was wondering, I think I know who maybe you said Alan Gratz was like the second person that you name dropped the most. I think maybe, I don't know, I might be name dropping who is your first person today. But I'm not sure. You'll have to confirm or deny that when it happens. But also, I wanted to pick up on your comment about how sometimes I'll say that when I'm reading a book, I put it in the bookshelf that I have in my heart for a specific person, right? So that I can recommend it to them. I think I've realized over the years, though, that I have a bookshelf in my heart for me, like especially for like my
Mm,
younger self, like books that I wish had been around when I was a kid. And so as I'm thinking about readers who might need this book, sometimes books that go on that shelf, I think about readers who may have been having similar experiences as a kid that I did as a kid.
mm,
And I wonder if all people have that in some way, even if they don't name it that they have when they're reading, they think, gosh, this is a book I wish I had as a kid.
mm,
For me, that book is one that isn't even out yet. I'm going to break one of our sort of unspoken rules here. And I say rule very loosely because we often break it. But
mm,
one of our unspoken rules is that we often try to save books until they're coming out. We don't, or have already come out. We don't often read or book talk books that haven't been published yet because we want to make sure that everybody who's watching it has the opportunity to actually go get it and read it now. So for this book, I'm going to encourage our 3.5 viewers to make sure that they put it on their to be read pile, because they're going to want to have a copy of this book, because I know so many readers who are going to want to have it too. The book I want to share today is Louder Than Hunger by our friend and perhaps most name dropped person on this show, John Schu. This is John's very first foray beyond the picture book realm, his very first book for middle grade readers. And it's about a kid named Jake who I kind of fell in love with in the very first page. Jake is a kid growing up probably in the 90s. You can tell by some of the music he listens to, who loves roller skating with his like CD Walkman on, listening to Broadway show tunes. He loves going and spending the weekends with his grandmother, etc. And Jake is, I think a lot of kids have this experience, loves school in elementary school, has some favorite teachers who have really made an imprint on his heart. Um, and taught him to love himself and words in a certain, in a really powerful way. But things change for Jake when he gets into middle school. They change, one, because his family dynamic changes. His mom, who maybe suffers from or battles depression, is sad a lot more. His dad, he and his dad don't seem to have that much in common. But most importantly, in middle school, Jake is bullied. He is the target of really some cruel bullying, not just at the beginning of middle school, but throughout. And it sort of like reaches its pinnacle in the 8th grade. As a result, Jake begins to hear in his mind a voice that tells him things like it would be better if he just disappeared. It would be better if he wasn't around, because he's not worthy of the things that he loves, of all the people he loves, or of any kind of happiness. That voice constantly tells Jake that he needs to disappear. And the way that Jake tries to disappear is by no longer eating. Not only not eating, but also increasing his exercise. If he just loses enough weight, maybe he will become so minuscule that none of the people who are tormenting him or the people he feels he disappoints will even notice him anymore. All of this sort of happens at the beginning of the book. It's really within the first third of the book that someone notices that Jake is not okay. Someone who loves him notices that he's not okay and calls his mother and says, you need to find out what's happening with Jake. And as a result, Jake ends up being admitted into both an in and outpatient treatment center for disordered thinking called the Pines. And Jake is, I have to say, like, during that time, I ended up writing in the margins of the book about how much Jake reminded me of so many of the 8th graders that I taught, because he obstinately refuses to participate in his own therapy. But what's so beautiful about Louder Than Hunger is that no one gives up on him. Throughout his time there, which is, I think, a little over a year, everyone from his therapist to his doctors to the staff to his parents, grandmother, the friends he makes, no one gives up on Jake. And their voices eventually work to help counter the voice that tells Jake he is not good enough. One of the things I absolutely love about this book, there's so many things. First of all, it broke my heart in about 10 million places, put it back together again, and then broke it again. I mean, it's just one of those books. It's like a 2-box of tissue books. You better have lots of tissues handy. But one of the things I really loved is how deeply it normalizes the tools of therapy. It's a book that's a novel in verse, so it's written in poetry, but we also see, let's see if I can find a page real fast. We also see things like feelings charts in it and daily schedules, so that kids can see what some of the tools of therapy are. And not all of those tools work. Jake thrives and succeeds, but he also fails and he stumbles. But the big takeaway is that no one gives up on him. The other thing I really love about this book is that at the end, not only is there a wonderful list of resources for kids who might be thinking about or might be experiencing some disordered eating as a result of who knows what, some trauma in their life or other things. But also, there's a beautiful author's note from our friend John Schu, in which he talks about his own experiences with disordered eating, with being in treatment as a teenager, and how those things inspired Jake. If you know John Schu at all, you will hear his voice throughout this beautiful book. But even if you don't, you will fall in love with Jake, whose journey I think is so important for so many kids who find themselves in a position of just not feeling like they're good enough for this world and for the things that bring them the most happiness. I can't wait for this book to be out and for readers to be able to get a hold of it. It's out on March 5th. So while you can't read it right now, I hope you will put it in your pre-order cart, because this is one that you're going to want to have for your heart. And I bet for the hearts of lots of your readers. I know my heart really, really needed it. So
Very powerful. So usually when you recommend books, just in general, there's like an 85% chance I'm going to read it. When you say I would like it, that it's 99%. This is a 100% moment. I don't know if I've ever had a 100% moment, but March 5th, I am all about that one. So thank you.
thank you, my friend. Thank you to John and to Alan for
Yeah.
sharing wonderful books that speak to the hearts of the readers that we serve. If you would like to learn more about our show or even more of the books that we've recommended over time, where can they go, Brad?
And if they want a video proof of who our most author name dropped authors are, and you were right, I concur. John Schu is number one on the list, but you can check it out for yourself. Just go to readthisnow.net.
Oh, yay!
New
Very,
and
very good.
improved and updated. Check it
That's
out.
right.
Thanks, Jen.
We and apparently the members of Item, shout out to you all for visiting our site, being part of our 3.5 viewers, and for sharing the love of reading with the kids you serve. We're so grateful for you. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week, everyone. Happy reading.